The royal decree came at dawn, and it shattered everything Parisa had ever believed about her father's love. Alpha Dariush stood before the gathered pack, his voice carrying across the frost-covered courtyard as he declared his blind daughter unfit to inherit the throne. 23 years of devotion, erased in a single proclamation. The pack law was absolute. No heir with weakness could rule the Moonfire Kingdom. And Parisa's sightless eyes, milky white since birth, marked her as broken in their ancient tradition. But here's what the Alpha didn't announce that morning. Here's the secret that would unravel everything. Tell me the city you're watching from so I can send you a hug, because what happens next will break your heart before it heals it. Parisa stood in the Hall of Ancestors, her fingers tracing the carved stone walls that told her family's history. She'd memorized every ridge, every indentation. The forbidden bloodline ceremony was supposed to happen in 3 days, the ritual that would bind her to the pack's power and confirm her as heir. Instead, her father hastened the Council of Elders and requested her removal from succession. "You don't understand what you're asking me to do," Parisa whispered to the empty hall. But it wasn't empty. She could hear breathing, slow, careful, terrified breathing from behind the eastern pillar. "Show yourself," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Footsteps, hesitant and light. Then a scent reached her. Wildflowers and mountain rain, mixed with fierce sweat. An Omega's scent. "Forgive me, princess." The voice was soft, feminine, reverent. "I didn't mean to intrude." "Liar." Parisa turned toward the sound, her white eyes unseeing but somehow piercing. "You've been following me for weeks. I can smell you in the corridors after I pass. I hear your footsteps shadow mine in the garden. Who sent you? Which council member wants to ensure I'm truly helpless?" Silence stretched between them like a blade. "No one sent me," the Omega finally said. "My name is Shirin. And I came because I'm the only one who knows what they're planning to do to you." Parisa's breath caught. "What are you talking about?" "The blood oath your father is preparing. It's not just to remove you from succession, princess. It's to erase you completely. They're going to cast you out beyond the borders, into the Shadowlands where the Packless roam. They're going to make it so no wolf in the kingdom can offer you shelter, food, or protection. You'll be utterly alone." The words hit Parisa like physical blows. Her father wouldn't, he couldn't. "You're lying," she said, but her voice cracked. "I was there when Elder Baram presented the ancient texts to your father. I cleaned the council chambers. I'm invisible to them, so they speak freely." Shiren's voice moved closer. "The law states that any heir deemed unfit must be removed not just from power, but from the pack itself. Otherwise, there will always be those who rally to your cause and create division. Your blindness isn't just a weakness to them, princess. It's a threat to their stability." Parisa's knees weakened, but she forced herself to remain standing. "Why are you telling me this? What do you want?" "I want to help you," Shirin said simply. "Because I know something else they don't. I know that you're not weak. I've watched you navigate these halls better than wolves with sight. I've seen you identify pack members by their footsteps alone. I've witnessed you calm a snarling challenger with just your voice. You're not unfit to lead. You're terrifying to those who rule through fear rather than strength." "Pretty words from an Omega who has nothing to lose," Parisa said bitterly. "I have everything to lose." Shiren's voice hardened. "If they discover I've warned you, they'll execute me for treason. But I'm willing to risk it because I've spent my entire life watching strong wolves abuse their power. And I've spent the last month watching you, a blind princess, show more courage than any of them." Parisa's chest tightened with an emotion she couldn't name. "Even if what you say is true, what can I do? I have 3 days before the ceremony. The pack won't support me. I heard them this morning. The whispers, the agreement in their voices when my father spoke." "They whisper because they're afraid," Shirin said. "But there are others. Wolves who remember your mother, princess. Wolves who saw how Alpha Dariush changed after her death. How he became cold and obsessed with appearing strong. Your mother Lale was beloved. And there are still those loyal to her memory. Parisa's throat constricted at the mention of her mother. Lala had died bringing her into the world, and Parisa had spent her life wondering if her father blamed her for that loss. Now she had her answer. "What would you have me do?" she asked quietly. "Fight," Shirin said fiercely. "Invoke the trial of shadows. It's an ancient rite, older than the current pack law. If you can survive 3 challenges set by the council, they must restore your right to succession. They can't refuse the old ways without invalidating their own authority. The trial of shadows was designed for warriors," Parisa said. "I can't see my opponents. I can't." "You can," Shirin interrupted. "Because I'll be your second. Every challenger is permitted 1 aid. Let me be yours. You're an Omega. The pack will never allow it. The ancient laws don't specify rank. Only that the second must take a blood oath to protect the challenger at all costs. Even unto death." Shiren's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "I'm prepared to make that oath, princess. The question is, are you prepared to let me?" Parisa's mind raced. This was madness. She barely knew this Omega, and yet Shirin was offering her life for a princess the entire pack had rejected. It made no sense unless... "What do you really want from me?" Parisa demanded. "The truth this time." Long pause. Then Shirin spoke, and her voice carried the weight of years of pain. "When I was 12, my mother was cast out for stealing food during a harsh winter. She was starving and I was sick. No one in the pack would help an Omega family. They said we weren't worth the resources. My mother died out there in the cold, alone, while I recovered in the Omega quarters. I want a leader who won't let that happen again. I want a kingdom where strength isn't measured by sight or rank, but by character. And I believe you could be that leader." Parisa felt tears burning behind her sightless eyes. "You're asking me to believe in myself when my own father doesn't." "I'm asking you to prove him wrong," Shirin said. "And I'm asking you to trust me." Trust. It was something Parisa had lost the moment her father's voice had echoed across that courtyard. But standing here, in the hall of her ancestors, feeling the determination radiating from this brave Omega, she felt something stir inside her. Something that felt like hope. "If I do this," Parisa said slowly, "if I invoke the trial of shadows, they'll make the challenges impossible. They'll design them specifically to exploit my blindness." "Then we'll train," Shirin said. "We have 3 days. It's not much, but I know someone who can help. My brother Rostam. He's a warrior in the King's Guard, and he owes me a debt. He'll train you in fighting without sight." "Your brother is in the King's Guard and you're an Omega servant." Parisa frowned. "That's unusual." "He earned his place through skill. I wasn't given the same opportunity." Bitterness crept into Shiren's voice. "But that's the kingdom we live in, princess. And that's the kingdom you could change." Parisa made her decision. "Tell your brother to meet us at the northern training grounds tonight. After the moon rises, when the guard rotation changes. We'll have 2 hours before anyone notices our absence. You're agreeing?" Shiren's voice lifted with surprise and joy. "I'm agreeing to try," Parisa corrected. "But Shirin, if this goes wrong, if they discover what we're planning, you must flee. Don't let them execute you for my sake." "With respect, princess, that's not your decision to make." There was steel beneath Shiren's soft voice. "If I take the blood oath as your second, your fate becomes mine. We succeed together, or we fall together." "Then we'd better not fall," Parisa said, and for the first time since that morning's devastating announcement, she felt her spine straighten with purpose. The northern training grounds were silent except for wind whistling through the weapons racks. Parisa felt the temperature drop as clouds covered the moon. She always noticed changes in warmth before others. Shirin guided her carefully across the frozen earth, their breath misting in the air. "He's here," Shirin whispered. Parisa heard it then, a heartbeat strong and steady, watching them from the shadows. "You brought her." A male voice, deeper than Shirin's but carrying the same careful tone. I didn't think you'd actually convince the princess to come. Roast Tam, please, Shirin said. She needs your help. She needs more than help. She needs a miracle. Rostam's footsteps approached. Heavy boots on frozen ground. With all respect, Princess Parisa, the trial of shadows will kill you. The council will see to that. Then teach me how to survive, Parisa said calmly. Shirin tells me you're the best warrior in your division. I'm adequate, Rostam said carefully. But I fight with my eyes, Princess. You're asking me to teach you something I've never done. No, Parisa corrected. I'm asking you to help me refine what I already know. I've been fighting without sight my entire life. Fighting to be heard, to be respected, to be seen as more than my disability. This is just a different kind of battle. She heard Rostam's sharp intake of breath, then a low chuckle. You have your mother's spirit. Lale was a force of nature. Very well, Princess. Strike me. What? You heard me. Attack me. Show me what you can do. Parisa hesitated for only a moment. Then she reached out with her other senses, listening for Rostam's breathing, smelling his position, feeling the displacement of air as he shifted his weight. She lunged forward, aiming for where she judged his center mass to be. Her fist hit nothing but air. Strong hands caught her wrists, immobilizing her. Predictable, Rostam said. You rely too heavily on sound. Against a skilled opponent who knows how to mask their breathing and movement, you'll fail. Again. He released her. Parisa stumbled back, frustration building. Again, she agreed. They trained for hours. Rostam was merciless, striking her from unexpected angles, teaching her to trust the tiny disturbances in air pressure, the minute changes in temperature that indicated movement. Shirin watched silently, occasionally offering water or adjusting Parisa's stance when Rostam's instructions weren't clear. The first challenge will likely be combat, Rostam said as they paused to rest. But the council is cunning. They'll twist it somehow, add complexity designed to disadvantage you. What about the second and third challenges? Parisa asked, breathing hard. Unknown. The trial of shadows adapts to the challenger. Tests not just strength but wisdom, character and will. Some say the challenges reveal what the pack truly needs in a leader. Then they'll see I have all of those things, Parisa said with more confidence than she felt. Perhaps, Rostam said quietly. But Princess, you should know something. There are rumors circulating about Shirin. Rostam don't. Shirin started. She needs to hear this, Rostam interrupted. The council knows someone has been accessing restricted archives. They've noticed books missing from the forbidden section of the library, ancient texts about the old laws and trials. They're investigating. If they discover it was Shirin who took them to learn about the trial of shadows, they'll charge her with treason even before the trial begins, Parisa finished. Her hands clenched into fists. Why didn't you tell me you stole from the archives? Because you wouldn't have accepted my help if you knew the risk I'd already taken, Shirin said simply. And because some things are worth the risk, Princess. Parisa wanted to argue, wanted to order Shirin to flee while she still could, but she knew it was pointless. She'd heard that same stubborn determination in her own voice too many times. Then we make sure the trial succeeds, Parisa said. Because I won't let you die for me, Shirin. I won't be another person who takes from you and gives nothing back. You've already given me something, Shirin said softly. You've given me hope. The next 2 days passed in a blur of secret training sessions and careful planning. Rostam pushed Parisa harder than anyone ever had, teaching her to fight with a ferocity that came from deep within rather than from sight. Shirin worked with her on navigation and awareness, setting up obstacle courses that forced Parisa to rely entirely on her non-visual senses. But beneath it all, tension built like a coming storm. Parisa could feel it in the way pack members' voices would drop when she approached. She could sense it in her father's heavy silence during the few meals they still shared. The entire kingdom was waiting for the forbidden bloodline ceremony, the moment when Parisa would officially be cast out. On the third morning, Parisa made her move. She entered the great hall during the council's gathering, Shirin at her side. The conversations died immediately. Parisa could feel dozens of eyes on her, could smell the mixture of surprise, contempt, and curiosity in the air. Princess Parisa, Elder Bahram's voice was cold. You should not be here. This is a closed session. Then you'll want to hear what I have to say quickly, Parisa replied, her voice carrying through the vast space. I invoke the trial of shadows. By the ancient laws that predate your council, by the rights established by the first pack, I claim my right to prove my worthiness through challenge rather than decree. The silence that followed was deafening. Then chaos erupted. Voices overlapped, some shocked, some angry, some intrigued. She has no right. The ancient laws are clear. An heir can invoke. Silence. Alpha Dariush's command cut through the noise. Parisa heard her father's chair scrape as he stood. His footsteps approached, and she fought the urge to step back. Parisa, do you understand what you're asking? I understand perfectly, father, she said, keeping her voice steady. I'm asking for the chance you've already decided I don't deserve. I'm asking the pack to judge me by my actions rather than my disability. The trial of shadows hasn't been invoked in over a century, Elder Bahram said. And never by one afflicted with blindness, Parisa finished for him. Say it, Elder. I'm blind. I've been since birth. But that doesn't make me weak, and it doesn't make me unfit to lead. The trial will kill you, her father said, and for a moment, Parisa heard something in his voice that might have been concern or fear. The challenges are designed for warriors at their peak. You would be slaughtered in the first round. Then that's my risk to take, Parisa said. Unless the council is afraid of what might happen if I succeed. A dangerous gambit. Questioning the council's courage could backfire spectacularly. But Parisa was betting everything on one fact. The council derived its power from tradition and ancient law. If they refused her invocation, they'd be admitting those laws were negotiable. And that would undermine their entire authority. Who stands as your second? Elder Bahram asked after a long pause. I do. Shirin stepped forward, her voice remarkably calm. I claim the right to take the blood oath as Princess Parisa's second. Murmurs rippled through the council. Parisa heard her father's sharp intake of breath. An omega. Someone scoffed. This is a mockery. The ancient laws don't specify rank, Shirin said, echoing what she'd told Parisa days ago. Only that the second must be willing to pledge their life to the challenger's cause. I am willing. This is unprecedented, another council member said. Actually, a new voice spoke, elderly but strong. It is not. Parisa recognized the speaker. Elder Mirza, the oldest member of the council, rarely spoke but commanded respect when he did. During the Third Dynasty, Elder Mirza continued, an Omega warrior named Kaveh stood as second to Crown Prince Amir during his trial of shadows. Together, they completed all 3 challenges, and Amir went on to become one of our greatest alphas. The ancient laws were written to value courage over rank. If we deny this Omega her right to stand with Princess Parisa, we deny our own history. The hall fell silent. Parisa felt hope surge in her chest. Very well, Alpha Dariush said, his voice heavy. The council will deliberate and announce the challenges at sunset. Princess Parisa, if you survive the trial, your place in the succession will be restored. If you fail, he trailed off. If I fail, I accept exile as originally decreed, Parisa said. But father, when I succeed, I want your promise that reforms will be made. That Omegas like Shirin will have opportunities based on merit, not birth rank. That this kingdom will begin to value all its members, not just those born to privilege. You presume much for someone who hasn't yet faced even a single challenge, Elder Bahram said coldly. I presume nothing, Parisa replied. I'm simply stating my terms. You're asking me to risk my life to prove my worth. The least you can do is promise that worth will mean something beyond my own fate. Another pause. Then surprisingly her father spoke. If and only if you complete the trial of shadows, I will hear your proposals for reform. That is all I can promise. It wasn't enough, but it was something. Parisa bowed her head. Then I accept the trial. We'll be ready at sunset. As she turned to leave, Shiren's hand found hers, squeezing gently. They walked together through the council chamber doors, and Parisa heard the explosion of conversation that erupted behind them. That went better than I expected, Shirin whispered. It went exactly as they planned, Parisa corrected quietly. My father agreed too easily. The council didn't protest hard enough. They wanted me to invoke the trial, Shirin. They're going to design challenges I cannot possibly survive, and then my death will be on my own head rather than theirs. It's brilliant, really. Politically flawless. Then we'll have to be more brilliant, Shirin said fiercely. We have until sunset. Let's use every moment. They found Rostam waiting in the training grounds, his face grim. I heard, he said. Half the kingdom heard. The news is spreading like wildfire. What are they saying? Parisa asked. Mixed reactions. Some think you're brave. Some think you're foolish. Most think you'll be dead by morning. Rostam's voice softened. Princess, I must ask. Are you certain about this? There's no shame in withdrawing. You could leave the kingdom, start somewhere new. My sister and I would go with you. No, Parisa said firmly. If I run, I prove them right. I prove that someone like me doesn't deserve to lead. And worse, I abandon everyone else who the pack has decided is less than, because of circumstances beyond their control. This isn't just about me anymore, Rostam. It's about changing the system. Spoken like a true alpha, Rostam said quietly. Very well. Then we train until they call for you. The hours passed too quickly. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in colors Parisa could never see but could feel in the cooling air, Shirin helped her prepare. The blood oath, Parisa said suddenly. When will you take it? Before the first challenge begins, Shirin said. It's part of the formal ceremony. I'll cut my palm, you'll cut yours, and we'll clasp hands while declaring the oath. And if I die, you die, Parisa said flatly. Then we'd better make sure neither of us dies. Shiren's hands worked to braid Parisa's long black hair in a warrior's style. Princess, I need to tell you something. Something I haven't shared with anyone except Rostam. I'm listening. I've been having dreams, Shirin said quietly. Ever since I first saw you in the hallways. Dreams where I see through your eyes, white mist and shadows, but also something else. Like you can see things that aren't there. Presences. Energies. Things that sighted wolves miss because they rely only on their physical vision. Parisa went still. You dream my dreams. I don't know if they're yours or mine or something between us, Shirin admitted. But in these dreams you're standing before the pack and you're glowing. Like moonlight made flesh. And everyone can see it. This power that comes from within you, not despite your blindness but somehow because of it. Like your disability opened other pathways. Other senses that make you stronger, not weaker. That's just a dream, Parisa said, but her voice was uncertain. Maybe, Shirin agreed. Or maybe it's a prophecy. The old bloodlines were said to have gifts beyond the normal senses. Your mother had them. She could sense emotions before wolves showed them, could predict challenges before they came. What if you inherited something similar? What if your blindness isn't a curse but an unlocking of other abilities? Parisa wanted to dismiss it, but she couldn't. Because there were moments when she sensed things she shouldn't be able to know. The weather before it changed. A person's intentions before they spoke. The presence of danger before it arrived. She'd always attributed it to her enhanced other senses. But what if it was more? If that's true, Parisa said slowly, then I need to learn to trust it. To stop seeing my blindness as something to overcome and start seeing it as part of my strength. Exactly, Shirin said, finishing the braid. And that's what we'll do in the trials. We'll show them that different doesn't mean lesser. It just means different. A horn sounded across the kingdom, the call to gather in the arena of judgment. Parisa's heart hammered in her chest. "It's time," Shirin said. "Together," Parisa replied. "Together," Shirin confirmed. They walked toward the arena, Rostam joining them as an escort. Parisa could hear the roar of the assembled pack. It sounded like thousands. Every wolf in the kingdom must have come to witness the trial. "The arena is circular," Rostam said quietly, giving Parisa information she'd need. "Approximately 100 paces across. Sand floor, stone walls. The council sits in the raised section to the north. Your father's throne is at the eastern point." "Thank you," Parisa said. They entered through the main gates, and the roar of the crowd intensified. Parisa heard jeers mixed with cheers, insults mixed with encouragement. The pack was divided, which meant her gambit was working, at least partially. She wasn't universally dismissed anymore. "Princess Parisa," Elder Bahram's voice echoed through the arena. "You have invoked the trial of shadows. Do you stand ready to face the challenges set before you?" "I do," Parisa called out, her voice clear and strong. "And you, Omega, state your name for the records." "Shirin, daughter of Fatme," Shirin said, her voice unwavering despite addressing the entire pack. "I stand ready to take the blood oath as second to Princess Parisa. Then come forward, both of you, and let the oath be sealed." They walked to the center of the arena. Parisa felt the eyes of thousands upon her, felt the weight of generations of tradition pressing down. An official approached with a ceremonial blade. "Your hands," the official said. Parisa and Shirin extended their palms. The blade was cold, then sharp, then wet with blood. Their hands clasped together, blood mingling. "Speak the oath," Elder Bahram commanded. Shirin's voice rang out first. "I, Shirin, pledge my life, my strength, and my will to Princess Parisa. Her battles are my battles. Her fate is my fate. Unto death and beyond, I am hers to command." Then it was Parisa's turn. "I, Parisa, accept this sacred bond. I pledge to honor this sacrifice, to fight with every breath, and to never ask for what I would not give in return. Together we stand, or together we fall." The moment the words left her lips, Parisa felt something shift. A warmth spread from her palm up her arm, settling in her chest. She heard Shirin's gasp and knew the Omega felt it too. The blood oath wasn't just ceremonial. It was binding them together in ways that went beyond words. "The oath is sealed," Elder Bahram announced. "Let the first challenge begin. Princess Parisa, you will face a combat trial. But not, as you might expect, against a single opponent." Parisa's stomach dropped. "You will face 3 opponents simultaneously," Elder Bahram continued, satisfaction evident in his voice. "All skilled warriors from our elite guard. They will come at you from all directions, and you must either disable or defeat all 3 to succeed. Your second may guide you with words but cannot physically intervene. If she does, you are both disqualified and will be immediately exiled." The crowd erupted in reaction, some protesting the unfairness, others cheering the challenge. 3 opponents," Parisa called out. "That's not a trial of my worthiness. That's an execution disguised as tradition." "It is exactly as difficult as it should be," Alpha Dariush said, his voice carrying a warning. "You claim to be fit to lead an entire kingdom, to protect thousands of wolves. If you cannot handle 3 warriors, how can you protect a nation?" Parisa felt rage and fear warring in her chest. But she forced both down. She'd expected them to cheat. She'd expected impossible odds. "Then send your warriors," she said coldly. "And let's see how impossible you've made this." 3 figures entered the arena. Parisa could hear their footsteps. Confident, measured, predatory. These weren't just warriors. They were killers, chosen specifically because they wouldn't hesitate. "Parisa," Shirin's voice was low, urgent. "The one approaching from your left front is heavy, favors his right leg. The one from your right is faster but smaller, probably relies on speed over strength. The third is behind you, waiting. He's the strategist. He'll wait for you to commit before striking. Parisa nodded minutely, showing she'd heard. The blood oath let her sense Shiren's presence more clearly now, like a warm tether connecting them. She could almost feel what Shirin was feeling: determination, fear, absolute commitment. Begin. Elder Bahram's command cracked like thunder. Immediately, the two front warriors rushed her. Parisa dropped low, sweeping her leg in a wide arc just as the left warrior reached striking range. She connected with his weakened right leg, heard him stumble. Simultaneously, she rolled right, avoiding the quick strikes from the smaller warrior. Sand flew up, temporarily blinding her opponents but not affecting her at all. She'd never relied on sight to begin with. It was perversely an advantage. "Behind you, spinning left," Shirin called. Parisa twisted, bringing her elbow up. It connected with something, a jaw. The impact sent pain radiating up her arm, but she heard a satisfying grunt of pain from the strategist who'd tried to blindside her. But there were three of them and one of her. They regrouped quickly, beginning to coordinate their attacks. One would feint while another struck from a different angle. Parisa blocked, dodged, countered, but she was getting overwhelmed. A fist connected with her ribs, knocking the air from her lungs. A boot caught her shoulder, spinning her around. "Get up!" Shiren's voice cut through the pain. "Remember what Rostam taught you. They're reacting to you because they can see you. But you're reacting to everything. Use the arena against them." Parisa understood. She ran, not away but in a specific pattern, toward the stone wall. The warriors followed, just as she'd hoped. The last second she dropped and rolled. Two of her opponents couldn't stop their momentum and crashed into the wall with sickening thuds. The third, the strategist, had anticipated this. His blade whistled through the air where Parisa's head had been a moment before. She felt the wind of its passage, rolled again, came up with a fistful of sand and threw it in a wide arc. "Direct hit," Shirin called. "He's blinded." Parisa struck while he was disoriented, a calculated blow to his solar plexus that dropped him gasping to his knees. Then she spun, found the smaller warrior recovering from the wall, and used his own momentum against him as he charged again. A hip throw sent him crashing to the ground. That left the heavy warrior, the one with the bad leg. He was circling her carefully now, having learned from watching his companions fall. "Directly ahead," Shirin said. 10 paces. "He's favoring his left now. You did more damage than you thought." Parisa was exhausted. Her ribs screamed with every breath. Her shoulder throbbed. But she'd come this far. She wouldn't fail now. She charged, but at the last moment feinted left. The warrior bought it, shifting his weight to his injured right leg to counter her expected attack. Parisa pivoted, came in low from the right, and swept his legs completely out from under him. He went down hard, and Parisa was on him immediately, her forearm against his throat, not enough to kill, but enough to establish dominance. "Yield," she commanded. For a moment she thought he'd refuse. Then, "I yield." Parisa released him and stood, swaying with exhaustion. The crowd was going absolutely wild. She'd never heard such noise. "The first challenge is complete," Elder Bahram announced, sounding deeply displeased. "Princess Parisa has succeeded. She will have 1 hour to rest before the second challenge." Shirin was at her side immediately, supporting her as they walked from the arena floor. Once they were out of sight of the crowd, Parisa's legs gave out. "I've got you," Shirin said, lowering her gently to a bench in the preparation chamber. "That was incredible. You were incredible." "I couldn't have done it without you," Parisa said through gritted teeth. Every part of her body hurt. "Your guidance made the difference." "We did it together," Shirin corrected. "Just like we'll do the next 2 challenges." Rostam appeared with water and medical supplies. "That was some of the finest combat I've witnessed," he said as he began tending to Parisa's injuries. "The way you used their sight against them, brilliant." "What will the second challenge be?" Parisa asked. "Unknown. But traditionally, if the first tests physical strength, the second tests mental acuity or wisdom. They'll try to exploit your blindness again, but differently. The hour passed too quickly. Parisa's ribs were wrapped, her shoulder bound, and she'd recovered some of her strength. But she was far from fully healed when the horn sounded, calling her back to the arena. This time when she entered, the floor had changed. She could hear water, flowing water, lots of it. For your second challenge, Elder Baram announced, you must navigate the labyrinth of truth. Before you is a maze filled with obstacles, traps, and false paths. Hidden within the center is a sacred scroll bearing the first pack's oath, the foundation of our kingdom. You must retrieve this scroll and return it to us. You will have until the moon reaches its zenith. If you fail, or if you are still within the maze when time runs out, the challenge is forfeited. Parisa's blood ran cold. A labyrinth. A maze designed for someone with sight, now weaponized against her blindness. Moreover, Elder Baram continued, and Parisa heard the malice in his voice, the labyrinth has been filled with wolf's bane vapor. Not enough to kill, but enough to dull your other senses, the very senses you rely upon to navigate. Your second cannot enter the maze with you, but she may call to you from outside. Though whether you'll hear her through the stone walls is another matter entirely. The crowd murmured, some in approval of the cunning challenge, others in disgust at the blatant attempt to ensure Parisa's failure. This is wrong, Shirin said urgently. They're poisoning you deliberately. Princess, you don't have to accept these terms. We can protest to Elder Mirza. No, Parisa interrupted. If I protest, I prove I'm afraid. And fear is what they're counting on. She turned toward where she sensed the council sitting in judgment. I accept the second challenge. Bring your labyrinth. Bring your poison. I'll retrieve your scroll and prove once again that weakness is a choice, not a condition. The crowd roared its approval, at least some of them did. Parisa could hear the division clearly now, the pack splitting between those who wanted her to fail and those who were beginning to believe she might actually succeed. Enter the maze, Elder Baram commanded. Parisa stepped forward, and immediately the scent hit her. Wolf's bane, thick and cloying. It burned her throat and made her eyes water. Within seconds, she felt her enhanced senses beginning to dull. The sounds became muffled, distant. Scents blurred together. Even temperature changes became harder to detect. She was being systematically stripped of everything that made her capable. Parisa! Shirin's voice came from outside the maze, already sounding far away. I'm here. I won't leave this spot. Follow my voice when you can. Parisa nodded, though she wasn't sure Shirin could see her anymore. She reached out, touched cold stone walls and began to navigate. Left or right? She chose left, trailing her fingers along the wall to maintain orientation. The wolf's bane grew thicker as she progressed. Her head began to swim. She stumbled over something, a rope? No, a tripwire. She heard a mechanism activate above her and threw herself sideways. Something heavy crashed where she'd been standing. They're trying to kill me, she realized with crystalline clarity. This isn't just a test. They've designed this maze to eliminate me. But she kept moving. Right turn. Left turn. Dead end, backtrack. The stone walls all felt the same. The wolf's bane vapor made her nauseous and disoriented. She lost track of time, lost track of direction. Was she moving toward the center, or had she been walking in circles? Then she heard it, water. Not the flowing water she'd heard earlier, but something else. Dripping. Rhythmic. Almost like a heartbeat. Parisa followed the sound, using it as an anchor in the disorienting fog. The dripping grew louder. She reached another turn and suddenly the wolf's bane thinned. Just slightly, but enough for her head to clear a fraction. Clever, she whispered. They put the vapor everywhere except near the center. They want me disoriented for most of the journey but coherent enough to know when I've failed if I can't find the scroll. She pressed on, following the water sound, and suddenly the walls opened up. She'd reached a chamber, the center of the labyrinth. She could feel the space expanding around her, could hear the echo of her footsteps changing. The scroll, she said, reaching out carefully. Her fingers found a pedestal, and atop it, a cylinder of parchment. She grabbed it, relief flooding through her. But then she heard something else. Breathing. She wasn't alone in the chamber. "Who's there?" she demanded. "Just a guardian," a familiar voice said, and Parisa's blood turned to ice. It was her father. Alpha Dariush stood between her and the exit. "Did you think it would be so simple, Parisa? Did you think they'd let you walk away with the scroll unchallenged?" "This isn't part of the trial," Parisa said, clutching the scroll tighter. "You're breaking the ancient laws." "I'm enforcing them," Dariush corrected. "The guardian of the labyrinth may challenge the seeker. It's always been part of the rite. I volunteered for the role." "Why?" Parisa's voice cracked. "Why are you doing this? I'm your daughter. You're a reminder of everything I lost." The words exploded from Dariush with shocking violence. "Every time I look at you, every time I hear your voice, I see your mother dying. I see the moment she chose you over her own life. I see the moment my world ended." Parisa felt tears burning behind her sightless eyes. "She didn't choose me over you. She chose to give life instead of taking it with her." "She was everything," Dariush said, his voice raw with old grief. "And you took her from me. You, with your weakness, with your blindness that marked you as cursed from birth. The healers said it was a sign, that you were touched by dark magic. They said I should have left you on the mountain to die like they did in the old days. But Lala begged me to keep you. Her dying wish. So I kept you, and I have regretted it every single day since." Each word was a blade, cutting deeper than any physical wound. Parisa wanted to collapse, wanted to give up, wanted to let the wolf's bane and the grief consume her entirely. But then she heard it, faint but clear. Shirin's voice singing. An old Omega lullaby, the kind mothers sang to children who couldn't sleep. Shirin was singing to guide her, to remind her she wasn't alone, to give her something to fight for beyond her father's love. "I'm sorry I couldn't be the daughter you wanted," Parisa said, straightening her spine. "I'm sorry Mother died bringing me into this world. I'm sorry I was born blind, and I'm sorry you see that as a curse rather than simply a difference. But I'm not sorry for fighting to prove my worth. I'm not sorry for refusing to accept your judgment as final. And I'm not sorry for the leader I'm going to become, one who values wolves for their character, not their perfections." Bold words for someone surrounded by poison and facing an alpha who could snap your neck with one hand, Dariush said. "Yes," Parisa agreed. "They are. But you won't kill me, father. Because if you do, you prove that the council was right to doubt tradition. You prove that the ancient laws can be broken when convenient. You prove that power matters more than honor. And that would destroy the very foundation you're trying to protect." Silence stretched between them, broken only by Shirin's distant singing and the drip of water. "You have your mother's courage," Dariush finally said, and his voice was heavy with something that might have been regret. "And her infuriating inability to back down when she should. Very well, Parisa. Take the scroll. Complete your second challenge. But know this, the third challenge will break you. The council has saved the worst for last. And even I don't have the power to intervene." "I don't want you to intervene," Parisa said. "I want you to watch. I want you to see exactly what your blind, cursed daughter can accomplish. And when I succeed, I want you to remember this moment. The moment you chose tradition over family, power over love." She walked past him, half expecting him to strike her down anyway. But he let her pass. She found the exit tunnel by following Shirin's voice, which grew stronger and clearer as the wolf's bane thinned. When she finally emerged from the labyrinth, Shirin was there, catching her as she stumbled into the open air. "I've got you," Shirin whispered. "You did it. You actually did it." Parisa held up the scroll, and the crowd erupted. Even those who'd been against her seemed impressed by her success. She'd navigated an impossible maze, survived poison, and faced down an alpha in single combat, all while blind. "The second challenge is complete," Elder Baram announced, sounding positively murderous now. Princess Parisa has retrieved the sacred scroll. She will have 1 hour before the final challenge. But as they left the arena floor, Parisa heard whispers spreading through the crowd. Rumors that Alpha Dariush had been in the maze. Questions about whether his presence was legal. Doubt beginning to creep in about the council's motives. "They're turning," Shirin said quietly as they reached the preparation chamber. "The pack is turning in your favor. They're starting to see the injustice of these trials." "Not enough," Parisa said, accepting water from Rostam. "Not yet. The third challenge will be the crucible. Everything depends on what happens next." "There's something you should know," Rostam said grimly. "I have contacts in the council's chambers. They're arguing about the final challenge. Elder Bahram wants something called the Trial of Absolute Darkness." Parisa's blood chilled. "What is that?" "An ancient test that hasn't been used in over 300 years, Rostam explained. "They seal you in an underground chamber with no light, no sound, nothing. Just pure sensory deprivation. And they leave you there until you either find the hidden exit or lose your mind. Most challengers went mad within hours. Some were found dead, their own fear killing them." "But Parisa is already blind," Shirin protested. "How is that different from—" "Because the chamber also strips away sound, temperature, even scent," Rostam interrupted. "It removes everything, leaving you completely alone with your thoughts. And the wolf's bane will still be in her system from the second trial, dulling her remaining senses even further. It's designed to break the mind, not the body." "Then that's what I'll face," Parisa said calmly, though inside she was screaming. "Because they're running out of options. I've beaten their physical challenge and their mental challenge. Now they'll try to break my spirit." "Princess, maybe Rostam is right," Shirin said desperately. "Maybe we should have left the kingdom when we had the chance. You've already proven yourself. Everyone can see it." "Not everyone," Parisa corrected. "My father still sees me as the curse that took his wife. Half the council still sees me as unfit. And countless Omegas throughout the kingdom still suffer under laws that value rank over merit. Can't stop now, Shirin. Not when we're this close to changing everything." Shirin's hands found Parisa's face, cupping it gently. "Then promise me something. Promise me that if you feel yourself breaking in that chamber, if you feel the darkness consuming you, you'll call for me. The blood oath binds us. I'll feel it if you're in true danger. I'll find a way to reach you." "You can't interfere," Parisa reminded her. "If you do, we both forfeit." "Then we both forfeit," Shirin said fiercely. "I won't let you die alone in the dark for a kingdom that doesn't deserve you." Parisa wanted to argue, but the words died in her throat. Because in that moment she realized something profound. She'd spent her entire life trying to prove her worth to a father who couldn't see past his grief, and a pack that couldn't see past her disability. But Shirin, brave, loyal, impossible Shirin, had seen her worth from the beginning. Had risked everything for a princess she barely knew because she believed in the possibility of change. That was love. Not the conditional affection of a grieving father, but the absolute acceptance of someone who saw all of you, including your flaws, and chose you anyway. "I won't die in that chamber," Parisa said softly. "Because I have something to live for now. Someone to live for." She felt Shirin's sharp intake of breath, felt the Omega's hands trembling against her cheeks. "Princess," Shirin started. "Parisa," she corrected. "Just Parisa. When we're alone, no titles. No ranks. Just us." "Parisa," Shirin whispered, and the name sounded like a prayer. "When this is over, when you're confirmed as heir and you have the power to change things, promise me you won't forget the wolves who have no voice. Promise me you'll fight for them the way you're fighting now." "I promise," Parisa said. "And I promise something else. When I take the throne, you'll stand beside me. Not as a servant or an Omega, but as my advisor, my second, my—" She didn't get to finish. The horn sounded, calling them back to the arena for the final challenge. They stood together for a moment longer, hands clasped, blood oath binding them in ways that went far beyond ceremony. Then they walked back into the arena, ready to face whatever horror the council had prepared. The floor had changed again. In the center was a single stone door, set flat against the ground. A door leading down into darkness. For your third and final challenge, Elder Bahram announced, Princess Parisa will face the trial of absolute darkness. She will enter the chamber of silence below, where no light penetrates and no sound carries. Within that void, she must find the hidden exit and emerge before dawn. If she fails, she will be sealed within until she either finds the way out or perishes from thirst. The crowd gasped. Even those who'd been against Parisa seemed shocked by the brutality of the challenge. "This is madness," someone shouted. "You're sentencing her to death." "We're testing her worthiness," Elder Bahram countered. "As the ancient laws demand. If she's truly fit to lead, she'll survive. If not, then fate will have decided for us." "I accept," Parisa said clearly. "But I have a request. If I emerge victorious, I want full authority to reform the Omega system. Not a hearing, actual authority. Immediate changes that I can implement without council approval." "You presume to negotiate," Elder Bahram scoffed. "I presume to know my value," Parisa corrected. "You've thrown 3 impossible challenges at me, each designed to kill rather than test. I've survived them all. So yes, if I survive this final trial, I want real power, not empty promises." "Done," Alpha Dariush said suddenly. "If you emerge from the Chamber of Silence before dawn, you'll have the authority you seek for Omega reform. You have my word as Alpha." Elder Bahram looked furious, but he couldn't contradict the Alpha's decree. "Then enter the chamber, princess. Your trial begins now." Parisa approached the stone door. Shirin walked with her, their hands still clasped. "I'll be here," Shirin whispered. "Right here on this spot. Every moment until you emerge." "I know," Parisa said. Then, surprising both of them, she leaned in and pressed her forehead to Shirin's, a gesture of deep intimacy among wolves, reserved for family or mates. "Whatever happens, thank you. For seeing me when no one else could." "Come back to me," Shirin said, her voice breaking. "That's all I ask. Come back." Parisa released her hand and descended into the chamber. The door sealed shut above her with a sound like thunder, and then, nothing. Absolute silence. Absolute darkness. And Parisa was alone. The first hour was manageable. Parisa felt along the walls, searching for any irregularity that might indicate a hidden exit. The stone was smooth, cold, uniform. She worked methodically, refusing to panic, refusing to let fear take root. The second hour was harder. The wolf's bane in her system was making her thoughts fuzzy. Without sound or temperature changes to orient herself, she lost track of which walls she'd already checked. She might have been going in circles. She might have been standing still. By the third hour, the silence was screaming at her. Not actual sound, but the absence of it, so complete that it felt like pressure against her ears, her skull, her brain. She started to hear things that weren't there. Whispers. Laughter. Her mother's voice calling her name. "Not real," Parisa said aloud, but she couldn't hear her own voice. The chamber absorbed all sound, gave nothing back. She was speaking into a void that swallowed everything. The fourth hour brought true terror. Without any sensory input, Parisa's mind began to turn on itself. She couldn't tell if her eyes were open or closed. It made no difference in the absolute darkness. She couldn't tell if she was standing or lying down. Reality became negotiable. She thought she felt hands grabbing her, her father's hands, come to finish what he started. She fought against nothing, striking at emptiness, screaming without sound. Then she felt something else. A warmth in her chest. The blood oath. Shirin somehow was reaching her through their bond. Not with words or sounds, but with feeling. Determination. Love. Absolute faith that Parisa would survive. Parisa focused on that warmth, used it as an anchor. She forced herself to think clearly. The chamber was designed to break challengers mentally, but what if that was misdirection? What if the exit wasn't hidden in the walls but somewhere else entirely? She lay flat on the floor, or thought she did, and began to search it with her hands. Smooth stone. More smooth stone. Then a depression. Slight, barely perceptible, but there. She followed it, found that it formed a pattern. A spiral, leading inward toward the center of the chamber. At the center, her fingers found a small hole. She reached in, felt a lever, pulled it. Grinding stone. A section of the floor beneath her began to lower. A platform, descending into even deeper darkness. Parisa's heart raced. Was this the exit or just another level of the nightmare? The platform stopped. Parisa crawled forward, hands outstretched, and found her. Cool, fresh air carrying sense. Earth. Stone. The outside world. She scrambled forward and found herself in a tunnel. Not silent anymore. She could hear wind echoing through it. She followed the sound, crawling, running, desperate to escape before she lost her nerve entirely. Actual light, gray and dim, but there. Dawn was breaking. Parisa emerged from the tunnel into the arena to find the crowd still assembled. Shirin still standing exactly where she'd promised to wait. She emerges, Elder Mirza announced, his old voice cracking with emotion. Before dawn, Princess Parisa has completed the trial of absolute darkness. The crowd went absolutely wild. Even Elder Bahram seemed stunned into silence. Parisa stood there, filthy and exhausted and trembling, but victorious. Shirin ran to her, catching her as her legs finally gave out. "You did it," she sobbed. "You actually did it." "We did it," Parisa corrected. "I felt you in there. The blood oath, it saved me." Princess Parisa, Alpha Dariush's voice cut through the celebration. "You have completed all 3 challenges of the Trial of Shadows. By ancient law, your right to succession is restored. You are confirmed as heir to the throne." The crowd erupted again. But Parisa wasn't finished. "And my authority over Omega reform," she called out. "You gave your word, Father. In front of the entire pack." "Your authority is granted," Dariush said heavily. "Though I suspect I will regret this decision." "You won't," Parisa said, straightening despite her exhaustion. "Because I'm going to show you what this kingdom can become when we stop wasting half our population's potential." She turned toward where she sensed the crowd. "From this day forward, Omegas will have the same rights and opportunities as any other wolf. Rank will be earned through merit, not inherited through birth. And anyone who has been overlooked or dismissed because of circumstances beyond their control will have a chance to prove their worth." The Omegas in the crowd began to cheer, their voices rising in a wave of hope. "Furthermore," Parisa continued, "I name Shirin as my official second, not just for the trial but permanently. She will serve as my advisor and representative. Her word will carry my authority." "A blind heir and an Omega advisor," Elder Bahram said with disgust. "You're destroying centuries of tradition." "No," Parisa corrected. "I'm fulfilling the true promise of those traditions. The ancient laws valued courage, character, and will. They valued wolves who could overcome adversity and lead with wisdom. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm returning us to our roots." Elder Mirza stood, a smile on his weathered face. "Well spoken, Princess. I believe your mother would be proud. As would the founders of our kingdom." Parisa felt tears finally spill over. She'd done it. She'd survived impossible odds and won the right to change everything. But as the crowd celebrated and Shirin held her close, Parisa heard something that made her blood run cold. A whisper from Elder Bahram to another council member, just barely audible over the noise. "Let her have her moment. The assassination is already arranged." Parisa's body went rigid. Shirin felt it immediately. "What's wrong?" the Omega whispered. "We're not safe," Parisa murmured back. "We won the battle, but the war has just begun." Because in that moment, Parisa understood the truth. The council had never expected her to survive the trials. But now that she had the authority to change everything they'd built their power upon, they wouldn't let her live long enough to use it. She'd won the throne, but someone was planning to make sure she never sat upon it. And as the celebration continued around them, as the pack rejoiced in their new heir,